Hello everyone and welcome to Callsign Charlie Models. It is time for another inbox review, and today we have another very large box kit right here. This is why you get to see my pretty face today instead of just going straight into the overhead of the box, because the box doesn't fit into camera really. So today what we are doing, we are going to be doing the inbox review for the HK Models B-17G Flying Fortress late production kit right here. So very nice kit. Looking forward to getting into it. I've seen a lot of built models of this, and that does look very nice. And I've also built one of these as well. So we're going to get the camera turned around, and then we're going to start looking into all the contents of this box. So give me 1 second, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and we got the box on the bench, and as you can see, like I said, this box is absolutely massive. Can't even come close to fitting it into the frame of the shot. So I'm going to do the best I can with the box, and then once we get everything set aside, we can really start diving into the plastic. So we have a total parts count of 625 pieces with a wingspan of 989 millimeters, which is about 39 inches with the wingspan, and a total length of 707 millimeters, which is about 27 3/4 inches right there. So a very large model to be built. And then we go off to the side of the box. We have some nice CAD renderings of the built model right here. As you can see, it's got a full interior right through there, and then the bomb bay and all the compartments going on right there. So, and it's also got a nice little wall mount as well. And then on the other side, we have our two different marking options for this. We have the 851st Bomber Squadron from the 490th Bomber Group, 8th Air Force, early 1945, right here with the aluminum all natural metal body right there. And then we have the other one from the 708th Bomber Squadron, 447th Bomber Group, 8th Air Force, in April of 1945 right there with the yellow tail and all the bomb mission markings right there. I do have aftermarket decals for this one that I'll be doing, so you'll have to stay tuned for that one, which this build is on the build queue for 2026. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this one. So we open up the box and we are greeted with an absolute ton of plastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything set aside, and then we can start going through the instructions, the decals, and all the plastic. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Alright, so starting off with the instructions, we have a nice, very large booklet right here from HK Models. And again, just a repeat of the box art in black and white, and then a total part wingspan and length listed right here as well. Then also on the cover, we have a nice little history about the B-17G Flying Fortress. And then we have a legend of symbols that we're going to be seeing throughout this build as well. So starting off with the kit, looks like we're starting to work on our flight deck, adding in a couple of control panels right there, and then our rudder pedals and our control sticks. Then we have our seats going together right through here, getting all of those attached. Then we have our oxygen bottles going onto our sidewalls, and then also a couple oxygen bottles going onto the underside of the flight deck as well. So as you can see, we're repeating for the other side as well for the oxygen bottles, and then we have nice color callouts on what color everything is supposed to be. After that's all done, we are getting the two sidewalls attached to the flight deck, and then we're working on our first bulkhead with some more oxygen bottles going in right there. And you also have a section that says open holes for wall mount hanger right here. After that, we're getting that bulkhead attached to our flight deck. And then we're starting to work on our bombs. We're doing 10 of these bombs. And then after that, we're starting to work on our bomb bay. We're getting the bombs attached to our bomb racks right there, and then getting our bomb racks attached to the forward flight deck area. So after that, we have another bulkhead to add, and then we're adding in an overhead for our bomb bay, and then we're adding in the 2 sidewalls with 2 additional bombs on each side of that. After that, we're starting to work on our radio operator's compartment, getting that all assembled with all of our radio gear, and then also a seat and our deck for our radio operator section. Then we have another bulkhead going on, and then we have our section for the ball turret right here going on, and we also have a decal for our instrument panel going on to this forward bulkhead right here. After that's all done, we are getting a couple pieces added to our fuselage half right here, a couple clear parts going on, and then we have some ammo cans, painting the interior right here, and then we're getting that interior sub-assembly attached into the fuselage. After that, we have our tail section going together, getting a bunch of parts with our ammo feed chute going on, and then a couple other parts going on as well, all through there. Or no, I'm sorry, that wasn't ammo feed chute, that was a gun right there, along with the ammo feed chute going on. And then we also do have the option of having the door open or closed with this kit, and we're adding in our clear parts to the other side of the fuselage. And then after all that's done, we are getting the 2 fuselage halves glued together. We also have a rudder to assemble right here, and then we're working on our tail gunner section and getting that all attached to our fuselage, and then we are getting the fuselage halves for the tail section attached right there. And then we have our turret for our tail gun right there. After that, we're working on our overhead gun, and then we have to get in our upper section right there, along with our glass work right here. From the one that I built a while back ago, I do remember that the fit of this part was a little bit of an issue. So if you want to make this a permanent piece, you're going to need some sanding and putty to get this to blend in right. And if you're going to leave it so you can take it on and off, you're going to have an obvious gap when you attach this piece. Alright, so up next we're starting to work on our nose section right here, getting a couple seats and then our deck going on with a couple extra electronics components. Then we're working on all of our guns right here. Then we're working on the sidewalls with our forward section. We're adding in our clear parts right here for the starboard side, and then on the port side adding in some clear parts and our gun sight right here. And then our navigator's desk with his lamp going in. And then we're getting all of that put together and then sandwiching it in between of the fuselage halves. After that, we're starting to work on our tailplane, getting all that done. It does look like the elevators will be positionable as well, and it does have a nice sturdy connection area for attaching that as well. After that is done, we are getting in our horizontal stabilizers and also our nose section attached, and we also have a glass piece to add onto the top piece as well. And then after that, we are working on our upper turret, getting that all done. Looks like it's going to be nicely detailed with that, and then getting all the clear parts attached right there. And then we have our chin turret going together, and our ball turret and our tail wheel going all together as well. It does have the option of having the extended or the retracted tail wheel in this kit. Alright, then moving forward, we're going to flip the fuselage over, and then we're going to attach the ball turret, our bomb bay doors, and our chin turret, and then also the tail wheel as well. And then we do also have the option of having the bomb bay doors open or closed. So we do have a few pieces to add in right here if we are going to leave the bomb bay doors open, or if you're going to close everything up and hide all the bomb bay work that you did, you just attach that plate right there. Alright, then moving forward, we have our boarding door right here, and then a few other antenna and all that to go onto the kit, and a couple door handles as well. So this door can be left open. It does not look like this door for the tail gunner can be left open. Alright, sorry about that. So after that, we are starting to work on our landing gear sections, getting those all attached, and then we are going to get those into the lower wing right here, and then we're going to attach our upper and lower wings together. After that's all done, we have our superchargers to go in right there, and then we have a couple other pieces to go in to the front of the wings along with our flaps and ailerons as well. Alright, then moving right along, we have our propellers, our engine, and getting that all done. Does look, from the instructions, it does look like the engines will be a little bit on the generic side. Doesn't look like they're going to be super highly detailed, but there is aftermarket sets out for that if you decide to do that or go that route. After that, we're working on our landing gear. We do have the option of having the landing gear in the up or down position with this. And then we're adding in our engines and our landing gear on that. So very nicely done on all that. And then we're just repeating for the other side, all the other parts that we did for the wing. And then we're going to get our wings attached to our fuselage. And then we're going to just, final couple steps is getting all of our guns attached to it. We do have a lot of guns with this kit. And then if you are going to do the wall mount, you do have the wall mount jig right here, and getting that all in, and then you have some mechanical fasteners for that, and then it shows you how to drill into the wall to get everything done. Alright, at the very end we have our parts call out right here. They are, from what I can see, they are not numbered in the parts call out here, but they are easily identifiable on what part is what. After that, we have a color call out sheet, but it is in black and white, so it's just telling you what colors to use via the color call outs, and then also where all the decals go. So again, this is all going to be natural metal finish, and then you're just painting on the colors. I believe this color was red, and then you have your anti-glare shield and everything else going on here. For the first one, the 851st Bomber Squadron, 490th Bomber Group, 8th Air Force, early of 1945. And then the second one, we have the 708th Bomber Squadron, 447th Bomber Group, 8th Air Force, April of 1945 as well. And this is the milk wagon right here. Did the other one have any? The other one is S for bread, or S with bread. I can't really read what the decal says yet. We'll have to see when we get into the decals. But again, some nice paint work going on right here. Some decals for our propellers as well. Just moving right along. Pretty simple color call outs and everything. So our actual colors are used guns, Mr. Hobby, Tamiya, and AK Interactive as well. So all very nicely done on those. Up next, we do have a small photo etch fret right here. It's not very big. We only have a couple seat belts and a couple vents or grills for these right here, so not much to these. Alright, so moving on to our decals. Decals do look okay. They do seem a little bit thick, but they should go down alright. The carrier film is cut right alongside the decal, so you won't have that issue. With the exception of like the milk wagon right here. Of course, we're going to have a lot of carrier film in between of all the artwork. The cowl on here does look okay for artwork, but everything else on here, we have our instrument panel decal as well. There, that looks eh. And then for the stars and bars for the national insignia, those look good, but I am going to see if I can find a paint mask for these so I can paint these on instead. And then for our other decal sheet, much of the same thing with the artwork. Artwork on this lady, she does, that one leg looks a little bit off. It just does not look right on that. And the name of this was 5 with Breakfast. So again, some nice decals on that. They are printed by Cartograph, so they should actually go down very, very nicely on that. Alright, so starting off with the plastic. Alright, so we have our flight deck. Not much detail to that, but you're going to be adding in a bunch of other pieces. and adding and painting and everything like that. So that's going to be okay with that. And then our tail wheel again looks okay, bald, but should be okay with that. Then we have our wing spars right here that are going to be a very tight fit from my experience. And then we have our chin turret pieces right through there, all very nice, nicely detailed. Even on these side walls right here where all of our oxygen bottles, we do have some nice detail on this electronics box right here. And then everything else looking pretty nice, and including this bulkhead right here, a lot of nice detail molded into that as well. Alright, so up next we have our rudder. Again, pretty nice detail on that with our rivets and some of the framing detail on there as well. And then we have our first bomb rack right here, which actually is pretty nice, and you're not going to be able to see much of it with all the bombs in there, but there is some very nice detail on there. And I do know of an aftermarket bomb bay set from Kopecky Models, which I plan on using for this kit as well. And then we have the chin, or not the chin, but the aft gunner turret right here, which is actually very nice as well. Then we have another piece for our aft section, then all the other parts. Our feed chutes also do look very nice as well. We'll paint up very nice, and all the bullets are individually seen, so you can really detail that as well for that. So again, very nicely done on our moldings. On the reverse side, not worried about anything with the exception of these ammo belts. We do have a couple ejector pin marks, but for the most part you are not going to be able to see any of that anyways, because it's all going to be tucked inside the model and very hard to see anyways. Alright, our next sprue is of our some of our bulkheads and our bomb bays and bomb racks. Again, the bomb racks do look very nice. We do have a good amount of ejector pin marks on that, but like I said, really you're not going to be able to see this because you're going to have all the bombs on top of that. Now, the one issue that we do have is with the bomb bay doors, we do have a lot of ejector pin marks on the inside of those doors, inside all those panels, which are going to be an absolute pain to remove all of those unless you get some very thin styrene and cut them down to shape and glue that in, which is going to be the route that I'm going to do, unless that aftermarket set from Kopecky has the bomb bay doors, which I'm not sure about yet. But everything else on here, we do have our boarding door right here. Again, we do have a couple of ejector pin marks, but those are very shallow and going to be very easy to take care of. Then on this side, alright, so the operator or the radio operator section, again, some nice detail on those radios right there. And then for our bomb bay doors on the exterior side, we do have some very nice rivet detail on those as well. So again, very nice for the most part. Again, with the radio detail right here, I'm hoping you can see that. Very nice. Looks like it's going to be painted up very easily, and sadly, unless you leave that top section off, you won't be able to see it, but you'll know it's there. And then also you do have the option of some Quinta Studios interior sets for that. Alright, so up next we have we have two sprues in this bag that are duplicates for another bag. So we get a total of 2 of each of these sprues right here. Or maybe, no, we get 4 of these sprues, so okay. Alright, so going on with this sprue, we have the front end of our engine. We have our cowl flaps right here and our propellers. Our propellers do look nice, and then we have some of the detail for our engines as well. Then also our guns right there, just moving right along. And then our oxygen bottles as well, like they're nicely detailed. And then our wheels, some nice tread detail on them, but the problem is they are in half, so when you go to sand that seam down, you're going to lose a lot of that tread detail on there. And then our engines. Okay, so our engines pretty much have no detail on them whatsoever on that. So that is definitely an issue. Even with adding in a few of these parts right here, you're definitely going to be able to see the engines. And with the lack of detail on the engine faces, from what I can see, that might be a little bit of an issue. And definitely will be using the aftermarket set for those as well. So we have our engine cowl. Again, some nice panel line and rivet detail on that. And then we have our pilot seat. Again, the pilot seat looks okay. Put some seat belts, and you also have some seat cushions that you can get from aftermarket that will really liven that seat up. Flip it over to the other side. The only things I'm really kind of worried about on this is the opposite side of the gun, which does look very nice on that. And then we have our engine cowls, which no ejector pin marks on those. They do seem a little bit thick though, but out of scale plastic that is expected. If you want the thinner ones, you can go with either shaving these down, or you can go with the aftermarket resin ones. And then for our main engine cowl, again, no ejector pins or issues inside of that one. Alright, so moving right along, we have the top section of the fuselage right here, and we have some absolutely gorgeous panel line and rivet detail on here. It's very fine detail on here, and it's going to take a wash and weather up really nice on here. I'm really looking forward to doing this. Then on the inside, we do have a good amount of ejector pin marks. We even have this one that is raised up right here. Take some cleanup on that. So yeah, you can see even on the top side right here, we do have a few ejector pin marks. But with that being said, you really are not going to be able to see these unless you pull this one off. Like this area is the bomb bay. They have that cover that goes over there, the ceiling for the bomb bay, so you're not going to be able to see that. And then I don't know, you would have special type of vision to be able to see this ejector pin mark right up here. So again, no real issues with the top side of the fuselage right here. These ejector pin marks, like I said, if you glue it down, you won't be able to see any of it unless somehow you have supernatural vision. And then up next we have the wall mount right here. This is some very thick and sturdy plastic as well, so it will definitely hold the weight of the model with these arms right here, as you can see. So very nice for wall mount. Definitely will help with saving space if you decide to go that route. Then we get a screw and a wall mount screw right here, so that's in that bag. Alright, and up next we have all of our ailerons right here. They're all pretty much, we get our top and bottom of the sprue or part, but again, all pretty much the same with the detail, as you can see right there. Not much changing to any of these pieces, just the difference between top and bottom right there. Alright, so up next we have our clear parts, and a few of them did fall off the sprue right here, mainly for our ball turret pieces and a few other pieces like our side windows, but everything does look nice. Nice, and absolutely the chin glass, or not the chin glass, but the nose glass on this is absolutely crystal clear. No issues with that at all, and all the other clear parts on here are absolutely gorgeous, and no issues on any of that. So very nicely done for the clear part molding. Alright, so up next we have 5 sprues of our bombs and guns right here, and from what I can see, the detail on them looks pretty nice. We do have our bomb fins. They do, for injection molding, those are pretty nice and thin on that. And then our fuses right here are absolutely gorgeous with the blade detail on that. And then with our guns, alright, so our guns are drilled out. The barrels are drilled a decent way back. They do look like they are hollow barrels, so that's nice. But the body detail on the barrel does look a little bit bland. It could have a little bit more detail on that. So that is really a small complaint, but I mean, depends on how far you want to go on that. But the rest of the detail on this does look fairly nice, and also with the bombs, you're really not going to be able to see a lot of it with it being tucked up in the bomb bay, unless you do a diorama where you have it on a bomb cart or something like that. But for this, the detail looks pretty nice. Alright, so up next we have another sprue. This is for our landing gear. section right here, and it does look like this is a double sprue right here. So we get 2 of these, and we have our firewalls, or the bulkheads for our landing gear well right there that has some nice cable detail molded into that. And then we have a front fairing with our cowl flaps right there. Another like oil tank or something like that right there. Then our superchargers going on. Some fairly decent detail on this side of it. And then we're going to flip it over here in a second to check out the other side. But again, for the most part, these landing gear wells do look fairly nice with all the molded in wiring detail. And with how much of this you're going to be able to see, unless you put a mirror under each landing gear, shouldn't really be an issue. We do have some also cabling to go into the bomb bay or into the landing gear wells as well. Now we flip it over to the other side. The only thing that I'm really looking for right here is our superchargers. And you see right here, there is a good amount of detail on this. This actually looks very nice for injection molding. And then we're going to have the center plate that goes into there as well. I'm going to have to do a comparison between this and the Edward ones to see if the Edward ones are actually needed, because as of right now this doesn't look like the Edward ones are even needed for this. Alright, so we have, moving right along, we have our tail section right here. Again, like the rest of the kit, we have some absolutely gorgeous panel line and rivet detail on there. Then we have some more radio detail right here. And then this is the floorboard for our tail gunners section right here. You can see the little padding rests for them. Now moving on to the nose section, very nice detail for the panel lines and rivets on that going forward. And then the same thing on the opposite side as well. And then for our guns right here, again, as you can see, very nice detail on those. And then going on to the other side, alright, so this is where we're going to run into issues. As you can see, we have a lot of ejector pin marks on the inside of here. With how big that glass nose is, you will definitely be able to see some of the work in the inside, especially if you light it up or if you put a flashlight up to the window. You'll definitely be able to see all those ejector pin marks on that. So definitely going to need to take care of that. For me, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to get some very thin styrene, cut that down to size, and then fill those panels up and block those ejector pin marks off. That's the way I'm going to take care of it on both of these. As you can see right here, this one you won't be able to see as much as what you will be on these. And then our seat backs right here, you can see all the ejector pin marks on that as well. So yeah, some nice detail on the guns. Okay, I spoke too early. We do have some very large ejector pin marks on the gun bodies right there. I'm hoping that you can see those as well. Alright, so moving right along, we have our bulkheads and then the top end of our bomb bay right here. Starting off with this, again, we do have ejector pin marks kind of all over the place on these, but the way that I'm going to do this is I'm just going to cut the plastic card and fill those holes up, and then once you paint everything, you won't be able to tell the difference unless you really look closely and are looking for it. On our bulkheads right here, again, we do have some ejector pin marks on that. If you're going to close up that top section, you're really not going to be able to see this in detail. You might be able to see a little bit of it through the glass work, but how much of this you're going to be able to see is kind of dependent on the way that you build it. But if you want to, you can go in and sand all of these ejector pin marks out. They are very shallow, so they shouldn't really be an issue to take care of, although there are a lot of them on here. So we flip it over to the other side. Alright, and then we have the floor, again, nice and smooth on that. And then this side of the bulkhead, again, no issues with this side of the bulkhead. I'm not sure. Yeah, this side is going to be the bomb bay. So this is probably going to be the most visible side if you leave that bomb bay open. Then we have the nose section floor right here, nicely detailed, or going to be nicely detailed. once you get it all painted, and then all the other components that go on that as well. So, and then with this bulkhead as well, this one is going to be the inside of the bomb bay right here. So this is going to be the more visible side for this section right here. Yeah, so definitely going to want to pay attention to the other side if you're going to leave that top half off of the fuselage. Then our chin turret right here, again, some nice rivet detail on that. And then everything else on here looks pretty nice. Alright, so up next we have our flaps right here, and then on this side, the main side, not much detail to that, pretty smooth content right there. And then on the opposite side, we do have a lot of ejector pin marks on this one right here. So definitely going to take some filling, or like I said before, Edward does have a replacement set for these, but there is a lot of folding to go with that, but they do look very nice when they are all done. And we get 2 of these flaps, obviously. Then we have our boarding door. Alright, so boarding door again has some nice rivet detail on that. We do have a little bit of flash on the inside of this window right here, but that will be very easy to take care of. And then when we look at the inside of the door looks very nice as well. No ejector pin marks or anything like that on there. So definitely going to be able to have that open and kind of help show off the interior detail of the kit as well, by allowing some more light to get into the kit that way. Alright, so up next we have another double sprue, and this is our elevators and our tail plating right here. Again, absolutely gorgeous rivet detail on there, on this sprue, as you can see. Absolutely gorgeous. This is going to paint up and weather very nice when it's all done. It's going to look really, really good on that. And then we have our elevators right here. Not much detail to those, but we do have a little bit of trim or rivet detail on our trim tabs for those. Alright, so now we are getting into the meat and potatoes of this kit, and we have the first fuselage half right here. Again, we have some absolutely gorgeous panel line and rivet detail going through here, and this back door as well going through, and then we have the opening for our rear entry door, and then we have our waist window. The one issue that I am seeing is we do still have, you can still see the where they molded over where the other window used to be for the other variants of the B-17. So definitely going to take some sanding to get rid of this little step right here and some putty work, but you should be able to get that taken care of so it comes out nice and smooth. You will just have to probably re-rivet these 4 lines right here, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But going on to the rest of the kit, again, absolutely gorgeous panel line and rivet detail all the way through, and it even maintains consistency. Oh no, I spoke too soon. Down on the underside, it does lose a lot of strength on the rivet detail right here. They're not as pronounced as they are on the main body right here. Now we flip it over to the other side for our interior, and again we have a good amount of ejector pin marks throughout the interior, but how much of this you're going to be able to see? Not much, especially with the waist gunners with the glass going on top of it. Really not going to be able to see any of that. So again, very nicely done for the most part. Pretty easy to fill those ejector pin marks. Alright, up next we got our wings, and from what I can tell, once I get these separated, well, there we go. So the wing detail on here looks pretty nice. We do have a couple of ejector pin nubs right there, but along with the rest of the kit, we have some absolutely gorgeous rivet detail on all of that. So again, very nicely done for that. And then we flip it over to the other side. The only area that we're really going to be worried about is the flap well right here. And we do have some ejector pin marks going on right here, as you can see in the camera. But those should be fairly easy to take care of, or you can go in and do the Edward replacement set for this. So those are your two options for that. And then we go to the underside of the wing, and again we have the same level of detail with the rivets and panel lines on that. So very nicely done. Right, oh, okay, no, that was the way the light was hitting it. I was going to say these rivets look like they're going soft, but it was just the way that the light was hitting. But again, very nicely done on that. Okay, maybe these rivets do go a little bit soft, so might want to go in and hit these up with a riveter again. Again, very nicely done on those. We get two of those wings, obviously. Right, now we have our last piece, which is the other fuselage half, and everything looks pretty much the same as the starboard side fuselage with the rivet detail and everything. The only difference is the waist gunner section right here is the staggered window, so we don't have the issue of the replacement molding right here. We also do have, if I rub my finger over it, we do have a little bit of a raised detail right here. Definitely going to want to take a quick light sand to it just to clean it up a little bit. Just going around all of like back here, just feeling pretty rough back there. But everything else does feel very nice. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very high grit sandpaper and just take a once over on here just to kind of knock down some of the raised edges to these rivets, it feels like. But other than that, everything else is looking the same as the starboard side, and then on the inside is the same story with the ejector pin marks on this one as well. Alright, so that does it for the HK Models 132nd B-17G Flying Fortress late production. And from what I can see, the kit, well, number one, it's the only game in town, so if you want to do a 132nd B-17, as far as I can tell, this is the only one for major manufacturers. This is the only game in town, unless somebody like Wingnut Wings comes back into business, or Qatari decide to do a very large scale aircraft, or maybe even border models. They would be my hopes for reproducing this aircraft in the highly detailed fashion that they do. But as of right now, like I said, this is the only game in town, so this is what we have to deal with, and it's going to take a little bit of extra work to get it up to a high standard. Just straight out of the box, it's going to look very nice, but if you want to get it up to a very high standard, flap wells are definitely needed, along with the flaps. The engines are 100% needed for that. And then maybe even some just metal guns. Now the barrels that are in the kit look pretty nice for having some of it drilled out. The ends of it look pretty nice, but the body of the barrel, they look a little bit bland. And then some of the detail along the fuselage, while the majority of the detail of the fuselage looks absolutely amazing, some of the detail kind of loses its crispness when you go around the bends. And like I said earlier, I built one of these before, and I don't remember the detail on this kind of being that rough. I don't remember having that many ejector pin marks on it for some reason. Maybe it was because I wasn't paying attention to that stuff back then, but now it seems like the toolings are starting to go bad for this kit. And hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully I just got a bad batch, but still I can do a little bit of work and get this to look up to a high standard. I know I do have the Quinta Studios interior for everything, so all the electronics boxes and everything are going to be replaced with the Quinta Studio stuff. And then, like I said, I have the Edward engines and also the wheels. The wheels do look pretty nice, but when you sand out that seam from connecting the halves, you are going to lose that diamond tread detail right along the center. So really that's the issues that I am seeing with this kit. The clear parts are absolutely amazing. Those are probably some of the best clear parts I've seen. So that's probably the best part. The superchargers, again, I want to take a look at the Edward stuff alongside the kit stuff to see if the the Edward ones are even needed for this, because those actually look pretty nice as well. But other than that, that's all I really have to say about the kit. It is in the build queue for 2026, so that one will be coming up here in the near future. I do have a few other projects to finish before I get to this one, but it is in the build queue for 2026. But other than that, that's all I gotta say. I know I've been pretty long-winded on this, but I really appreciate everybody watching this, and I hope if you're watching this and you're on the fence about getting this kit, I hope it helped you make your decision, either yay or nay. And if you've built this one before, let us know down in the comments if there's any hiccup areas that you ran into. And other than that, if you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe, and as I mentioned before, comment down below. And until next time, have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.